All right, hello everyone. Live for the Friday webinar. Rilus Dana here for Dana & Associates and Mott Legal. Thanks for tuning in. So today we're going to continue the topic of trustees. So last week we talked about trustees and executors. We talked about what the job is, what it means to be a trustee, and we focused last week more on how you choose a trustee for your plan, how you pick someone that's going to administer it for your plan. Today, what I want to focus on is what to do if you are that person. If you are named as the trustee or the executor and someone has passed away, the steps that you should be taking and what you should be doing. So I just completed a new visual, a new PowerPoint. This PowerPoint that we use in our meetings, we continue to add to it. Turn down the volume back there a little bit. So yeah, today I want to show you what to do if you are as the trustee or the executor. So let's see if I can find it. I just emailed it to myself. So I got to pull it up on my computer over here. And I'll share my screen. So hope everyone's having a good Friday. Hope you guys are enjoying these webinars. I like doing them. So we might do some different types of shows in the future where I'll bring on other guests, people that practice in other areas, so other attorneys, some financial advisors, tax advisors, and they can talk about their areas of expertise. So let us know if you'd like to see shows like that. You can leave a comment of what types of things that you'd like to see. We may do it as a live event or may do it as like a podcast. We do it where we record it and then play it later. The nice thing about live, I feel like it takes off some of the pressure of the perfect production value. But the nice thing about not live is you can take the time and do a little bit better. All right, let's see if this wants to download. Let's repair something. What? I can't read it. All right, let's try again. It's always something. I was just, finishing these materials as I was getting ready for the broadcast. A nice visual way to be able to show you guys what you should do. Let me try another way to look for it. It's not there yet. All right, let me try again from this computer to send it over. I would save it on a flash drive, but I'm out of plugs here. My computer, I got every single one plugged in. I guess I could unplug the power for a little bit and get it in on a flash drive. Okay, so what to do if you are named as the trustee? So what to do if you're the executor or the trustee? So the first thing, a lot of people, they'll use the term executor. There's really no such thing as an executor of the estate. It's gonna depend on the document that's controlling. Decedent, so that's the person that's passed away. Fiduciary, that's who's going to be in charge. We use this green visor to show who the fiduciary is. And then the beneficiary, we use this hand. So that's who's going to get the stuff is the beneficiary. So, okay. There could be multiple beneficiaries. So what do you do if you're the executor? So figure out who the players are is number one. Number two, what are the assets? So who are the players and then what stuff's out there? It could be IRAs. That's not a pill bottle. That's an IRA. Life insurance, bank accounts, and real estate. All right, after you figure out what assets are out there, and then you want to figure out what controls the assets. So on IRAs and life insurance, they usually have beneficiaries named. So someone that serves, or the beneficiary controls where it goes to. They could be titled in the name of the deceased person, which is shown there, so the name of the decedent, or they could be in a trust. So this bank account, sometimes bank accounts name beneficiaries, or they'll call that a POD, payable on death, or the bank account could be owned by the trust. So step 2, figure out what are the assets, what's out there, and that could be a challenge in itself sometimes if there's not good records left behind. So yeah, figure out what the assets are, and then after you figure out what the assets are, number 3 is what controls the assets. So do they name a beneficiary? Are they owned by a trust? Or are they in the name of the deceased, which is known as the estate? Okay, so if they're in the name of the deceased, then it's called the estate. You'd say it's in the name of the estate of the dead person. It's in the dead person's estate. And their last will and testament will be controlling if they have one. The last will and testament will name the beneficiaries, where the stuff goes, and it will name the personal representative, is what it's called in Arizona, who's in charge. This is what's commonly known as the executor. If there's not a last will and testament, then the state laws will have intestate succession laws. Intestate means no will. So if there's not a will, the state law defines who has priority to serve as a personal representative and who are the beneficiaries. So if the assets are in the name of the dead person, you got to figure out if there's a will or not a will to see who's in charge. And then it could be a class of beneficiaries. By a class, I mean if there's a bunch of children, say there's 3 kids and their father passed away, then all 3 of them would be beneficiaries, and all 3 kids would also have equal priority to serve as a personal representative. Now, if there was a surviving spouse and then also children, then those are 2 different classes of beneficiaries. The surviving spouse and children, depending on the situation, if all the children were common to the relationship, then the surviving spouse will be the intestate beneficiary and the personal representative. If there's children from a prior relationship, then they're a half beneficiary and the surviving spouse gets the other half, or their share of the community property. Okay, so it could also be in a trust. If it's in a trust, you got to figure out who's in charge, who's the trustee, and who are the beneficiaries, and then what terms of the trust. So if you are the executor, so these steps, these first 3 steps can take a little bit. You know, it can take a little digging to do to figure out what assets are out there and how they are controlled. After you figure all of that out, then it's your job to safeguard the assets. That means to protect them in the best way. So whenever I talk to trustees or personal representatives, I explain to them that they work for all the beneficiaries of the trust or the estate. That's their bosses. So that's who they got to report to. That's who they have to answer to. And if they did anything or didn't do anything that caused the assets to go down in value, then the trustee is liable. They're personally liable. So people ask me all the time questions, about this, what should I do? I'm the trustee and there's a bunch of stock or there's a bunch of cash. What should I do with this? Good question. But if you make the wrong move, you could be liable to the beneficiaries. Okay, so safeguard all the assets, collect all the assets. So make sure that you collect everything that's in the name of the deceased person. Make sure that you locate all the assets in the trust and everything that this person is entitled to. Again, that can be a job in itself. If there's not good records left behind, you have to it's kind of like being a detective. You have to search around, see if you can find bank statements, maybe check tax returns, see where they were getting income from, things like that, to make sure that you've collected all the assets for the trust or the estate. Okay, looks like we got Will in the studio. Let's add Will to the stream. So,
hey there, Rilus.
Hi, Will.
Hey, how's it going? I've been listening for a little while. I'm sorry I'm late. I forgot about this for a moment.
That's okay. I was almost late too. I was just finishing up this new
Yeah.
little PowerPoint and adding it in. So
Yeah.
this is kind of it's still the continued theme of trustees, but we're focusing a little bit more on what to do if you are the trustee on that part of it today.
I see that. Yeah. And you've even included the executor or the personal representative in the event that there's just a will or no will at all.
Right. So I feel like this is a common thing that I'm explaining over and over, and it's not an easy thing necessarily, but it starts with determining the players, figuring out what the assets are, protecting them, collecting them all. Whoops, what happened? I lost. There we go. Sorry, I clicked the wrong keyboard. So I have the other keyboard for the screen share. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. So after we collect all the assets, determine and pay all the valid debts. And that's one of the last steps. I'm more concerned about what the assets are, but I guess part of the assets, we're looking at the net value of the assets from the beginning, trying to get an idea of what's out there. So two reasons we're looking at the value of the assets. I guess one is it's the duty of the trustee to find everything, but it also determines on how we collect the assets. So if assets in the name of the estate, let me back up on this keyboard. If there's assets in the name of the deceased person, then it's going to be controlled by their estate. And then if it's controlled by their estate, then we need Uncle Sam. This Uncle Sam just represents the government. So depending on the value, we might need to go through a probate, or if it's less than a certain value, we can collect real estate by a real property affidavit, what we call a mini probate. So that's why the value is important as well. Now, depending where the assets are held, that also determines what we have to do to creditors, what our duty is to creditors. So that topic's come up quite a bit, hasn't it, Will, in the last kind of few weeks?
Yeah, definitely. So we get that call a lot where people will call and say, hey, these creditors are asking for my deceased parents' bills to be paid, and then what do we tell them?
Right, it's the attorney answer, huh? Depends.
Yeah.
It always depends.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? So what if we have to do a probate? What kind of notice do we have to give to creditors versus if all the assets are in the trust? What type of notice do creditors get?
Yeah, so when we do a probate, that triggers this 4-month period where we have to give notice to all the creditors, and then isn't it 4 months where they need to make a claim on that? So they need
So as part of probate, you have to give notice to creditors. You have to post in the newspaper. So the way we give notice, creditors, they call them known creditors. If we know about them, you have to send them a letter and send them notice that way. For any unknown creditors, you publish in the newspaper. And we do that every time as part of a probate. It's required. So that's how unknown creditors get notice. And then you have a duty to satisfy their claims. So let's talk about that. So this is one of my favorite things to do is I like negotiating with creditors. I find it enjoyable. So just the probate statutes say that the creditors have to be satisfied. That doesn't mean paid in full. So as part of our services, we'll help people negotiate their claims against the creditors. Now, for real estate, it's usually what we call a secured creditor. They have a mortgage on the property. So if they're not paid, they have the right to foreclose on the property. So those are a lot different than unsecured creditors like credit cards. So if there's a credit card debt in the name of the deceased, that's an unsecured creditor. We do have to give them notice, but if we're trying to if we're trying to get any assets out of the estate, whether that's through a probate, or even if we do what I call a mini probate, if it's less than the value where we can do a real property affidavit, you still have to satisfy the creditors as part of that process. Now, if all the assets are inside of a trust, what type of notice has to be given, Will?
Yeah, none really, because it's kind of handled outside. So the trustee has a duty to distribute to your beneficiaries, but not to give notice to anyone.
Right. So assets inside of a trust, that's another advantage of avoiding probate. So you hear bad things about probate, that it's time consuming, and part of it, the other bad thing too, is that you have to go to all the creditors and you have to make sure they're satisfied. Versus if all the assets are in the trust, we've seen this a lot lately, and where people have engaged us, they've hired us, and so they can get our advice. If the assets are inside of the trust and there's things like credit cards, then we advise them how to handle those. And usually it's they don't have to pay them, or they can do a significant discount to pay them off. Okay, so anything else we've seen in this regard, Will, as far as people that are trying to become the trustee? But let's talk about people that are incapacitated. It's kind of a similar process. It's another keyboard. We'll go back. All right. So this is what to do if someone dies specifically, but
Right.
also incapacitated. So we're seeing this a lot too. So where the successor trustee steps in. So you look for the assets, what controls the assets. Now for assets inside of a trust, it's possible that you can, we're seeing where a lot of kids are having to step in and manage their parents' trust. Where their parents' health is declining, so they have to step in and manage them. So in that situation, the beneficiary, their boss, is their parents, the person that created the trust. But they also have the other beneficiaries of the trust, their siblings, the remainder beneficiary. They're basically bosses too. They're looking over their shoulder, and they want to, if something's not done right, they could have liability to those future beneficiaries. So something you have to be aware of as well. Okay, so that's trustees, what to do if you are a trustee. A cheat code is you can call our office. We got a lot of great videos, a lot of great materials, but if you call us, I'll put our number on the screen.
Yeah, and in a personal one-on-one session, we can kind of describe how this would apply to your situation. Right now, what you've been talking about, Rilus, is very broad, is because you're going over, what successor trustees do, what the executors do, personal representatives, and incapacity. But what's great about a one-on-one session is we can kind of explain how this would apply to an individual's unique situation.
Yeah, and these are the steps that I go through. So on every single one of those calls. So these webinar Fridays they've kind of become like our attorney trainings as well in some ways. It's ways just to, focus on, how to handle these issues. And this is my blueprint basically for every time I'm talking to someone, in that situation. Number one, who are the players? And who am I talking to? Am I talking to someone that's a beneficiary, wondering where their share is? Am I talking to someone who's in charge, wondering what they should be doing? Mm-hmm. Or the decedent? I'm usually not talking to the decedent. That's the person that's passed away. So.
I would imagine that they're not the one on the call.
But we got to figure out, who that is, and then who their family member is related.
Yeah.
Then we can figure out. But yeah, it's very specific to the situation. So the cheat code is, call our office. I pride myself on the fact of the good help that we have. I tell people that if you call, I'm definitely not going to answer, and I probably won't be available, but someone should answer during the day or give you a call back very quickly. We got a great team. Lori Bradford, our probate and estates paralegal. So she's very good at getting information to people when they call, telling them what they need to be doing, and then wherever I'm at, she tracks me down so I can help people. So I should also let me grab one more prop I want to show to explain how our new meetings are going to go. So I'm going to grab the sneeze guard. Where are you located today, Will?
Oh, I'm at home. Yeah, I'm safe with nobody around me. But those sneeze guards are for when we do have clients in the office.
Yeah, I'm going to grab.
I like the name that you've given it too. Where I think he calls a sneeze guard. We call a plexiglass barrier is probably more accurate as to what it is that he's referring to.
All right. Sneeze guard. So someone could be over here. You can talk freely, and someone over here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
This is the future. This is how we're doing it now. So we're getting pressure from people that want to come back into the office, clients that want to come see us.
Yep.
And so this is how we're going to be doing it. And then also we'll be using the screens as well. So there's no or less or very little paper interaction. But we'll do things on the screen. And it's kind of a hybrid meeting where it's like it's what we've learned from our virtual meetings, the things that are better that way. But we'll be in person. So if you're waiting to get your planning done until you could sit face to face with us, face to face with some plexiglass between at least, we're now seeing clients in our Scottsdale, Chandler, Mesa, and Payson office. We're starting to go back to Payson, aren't we, Will?
That's right. Yeah, I'm excited to get back up there and get over to Chandler more often as well.
Yeah. So Will's going to be the face of Payson and Chandler.
Yep.
And I hang out in here in Scottsdale, and then Mesa, and then Anna's mostly in Mesa, and maybe sometimes in Scottsdale. So next week, I'm excited to be working from Wyoming. My sister texted me yesterday. Yeah, it was a long day, but she said, "Why don't you go to Wyoming? We have a beautiful place here. Have you and your boys come up?" So I had enough airline points, so I was like, "All right, that sounds like a good idea." So I'll be plugged in there next week, at least the first part of the week, and then we'll still do a broadcast Friday. I think we'll still do a broadcast, or we may do some of these professional series where we play them on Friday. So, let us know if there's topics you'd like to see, if you like the lives, or if we can just do a recorded thing. Do you have any words of wisdom? I have one more topic I want to close on if you don't have any words of wisdom.
No, I don't have anything. I was just glad to hear you're going to Wyoming, and I think that sounds like an awesome trip. And you might as well take advantage of the being able to work remotely as often as we do now.
Yeah, so that's a nice part of being able to work remotely. I was going to share is, everyone taking trips in the summer, even though it's, kind of weird times, but make sure you're creating those digital assets, documenting those memories with your family. Take pictures, take videos. I'm one too. I don't like being in pictures necessarily. And even though I'm doing more videos like this, it doesn't come natural to me. So I'm saying, take the pictures, take the photos, and then make sure you include it in your digital asset trust. So I was doing a little reflecting of last year. I went to Wyoming. My sister invited me, and I brought a camera up, and I did a few blogs with my kid. I wanted to film, and I wanted to kind of learn that industry. So to start doing it is started filming my kids. So it's neat thinking, where I'm at a year later. We're now doing this live stream regularly for the law firm, and just what I've learned about video, that's helped me. And also what I think is cool too, I still like to write in a journal. I like the analog, but I like being able, reflect. I mention the videos that I create. So whatever I'm doing, I can talk about where I'm at, what I'm doing, but there's also video in either my phone my iCloud, my digital asset trust designates that my iCloud photos and videos will be copied to my kids. And then if I put anything on YouTube on my personal channel, that's also designated in my digital asset trust. So it's a cool way that we can share our memories. I'll grab one more prop too.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a cool way to preserve your memories through keeping it somewhere and then having that digital asset trust in place. So it sounds like you can.
Here's some of my inspiration. I don't know if you can see it good.
What's that?
But this is my ancestors.
Oh wow!
2 years before the mast, and this is what's the date of this? This is it starts. There's an introduction. It's 1838, I believe. So his accounting in 1838, when he sailed, left Harvard and sailed around South Africa to California.
Oh yeah,
So,
your ancient ancestor.
Yeah, so it's really cool just to read that and identify with him.
Mm-hmm.
And adding video to the mix is just like next level. If you can document your life, what you're doing in writings, but having a way to share videos and photos, that'll create a really cool legacy. Like I wish I had better like videos of this. It's cool. I call it like a pirate book, like some of the, just like how they talk in here about I don't know, it's a little bit different how they talked 200 years ago, even though it's English.
Right.
So,
imagine if they had videos to be taking of themselves back then, and how cool that would be to see those.
Yeah. Let's see here. Silver Peak asked if we're taking questions during these sessions. Sure, we'll take a question if you're still out there. If you got a specific question, will you take a question, Will?
Sure.
So, yeah. So I would love to take questions on this. I would like it if people send them ahead of time or while we're doing it. But we go live on these streams to give service to our community and to talk with them about whatever they want to talk to estate planning lawyers about. I can talk about pirate books.
We should have a list of common questions when we come in, and we try to discuss those as best we can during the video. But anything specific, we could certainly take.
Yeah. So we'll give Silver Peak a little bit here, see if he's got a question, or maybe he's just asking if we take questions.
Yeah, maybe that is his question. That do you take questions?
That was easy.
Yeah.
So, thanks everyone for tuning in. If you're watching on the replay or whether you're watching live, the week before, last week, we talked about trustees as well, but we talked more about how to choose one. We talked about what they do. Today's broadcast was what to do if you are a trustee or an executor. And what I recommend, it's kind of biased advice as an attorney, but I always recommend the trustee that they hire an attorney, that they hire counsel, and that they pay themselves. So they're entitled to reasonable compensation. So again, by hiring us, we'll help. Well, number one, we'll protect them. We'll make sure that they don't get sued, and we also make sure that they get paid. So whether you hire us or someone like us, I think it's always a good idea as a trustee to get someone to help you protect yourself from the liability that you take on. Yeah. So Silver Peak, no question. Just yep. But we got you covered if you do have a question.
Yeah.
Or anyone else out there, let us know. You can send us an email before time or during the stream. The email is going down there below, the info@Dana Legal Help. That's also where you email us if you want to schedule your what we call personal family legal session. So that's your meeting with an attorney, and we'll help you as much as we can in that meeting. At the end of the meeting, we can usually quote you a flat fee on what's needed or point you in the right direction. Silver Peak are only in AZ, or you rep in other states. So we're in Arizona. I'm licensed in California as well. I practice there in Southern California, just San Diego. I have a Nevada license, but it's currently inactive. So right now we're just Arizona and California. If you're interested in other states, let us know. I have some contacts in other states that I'd love to connect you with if we know someone there. But right now we're just Arizona and California. Okay, thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
All right, Rilus. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. I know.